In 2017, the world market of medicines is estimated at $1.5 trillion. By 2025, according to experts, it can grow to $2 trillion. The largest financial contribution to the development of this market is usually made by developed countries. Talking about categories, the most rapidly growing segment is the group of oncological drugs. Their sales grow annually, on average, by 10%. Given the high cost of medicines, their analogues of biological origin are becoming increasingly popular among customers. Last year, only in Europe, capacity of the market for such drugs reached $4 billion. A number of large corporations are now developing bioanalogues to cure the most serious diseases. Kazakhstan is not far behind. A part of pharmaceutical factories direct forces to produce and sell medicines from high-quality vegetable raw materials. This enterprise is the only one throughout Kazakhstan that produces medicines from ordinary plants. Almost a secret recipe and traditions of manufacturing of all products here are being carefully stored and observed for more than a quarter of a century. It is interesting that the very history of one of the first Kazakh pharmaceutical companies began quite unusually. So I've inherited this business from them. Once Evgeny was on a business trip to Altai and got very sick. A local healer gave him special oil, and within a couple of days, without any antibiotics, he recovered. This is how he got the very recipe.
Евгений Гаврилович выздоровел, и знахарка передала ему этот рецепт.
This production plant has two production sites, one where the oil extracts are being prepared and the other one where suppositories are being made. All operations, including the input, operational and productional control and verification of already finished goods, take place here in the laboratory. Specification of quality analysis, normative documents, standard operating procedures and techniques of control are being carried out here. And the specialists of the Quality Control Department conduct all analysis for compliance with the quality specifications. They give their admission at every stage of the process. Only then the technological process itself takes place. Every drug is based on environmentally friendly natural raw materials. Formulas of folk medicine and the latest scientific and technical achievements, this is the mix that allows the company to stay out of competition. Olesia proudly says that for the entire time of company's existence, no complaints related to the quality of products have been received. The prices also please. Qualified oil costs from 450 to 800 tenge, depending on the volume, and suppositories cost up to 800 tenge. We are one of the first enterprises that implements full-cycle production, starting from the substance extraction to the release of the finished medicinal product. We work together with scientific research institutes all over the world. In the nearest future, the company plans to enter the market of the European Union and improve the processes of obtaining its own vegetable raw materials. After all, the trend towards natural products around the world is gaining momentum. Due to the lack of potent substances, dyes and preservatives, even during a long use, the number of side effects is reduced to zero. According to analysts, during the first 6 months of 2018, over 13 million drugs were produced in Kazakhstan at the amount of more than 36 billion tenge. In comparison with the last year's indicators, progress is noticeable and would be impossible without the state support, market participants say. At the moment, there is a very large surge in the pharmaceutical industry. At first, there is a clear state regulation of circulation of public funds in the country. I mean, first of all, the state registration of medicines. This is the implementation of GXP standards. This is kind of a national form which has already been implemented, and such regulation allows pharmaceutical companies to ensure the release of qualitative, effective and safe medicines corresponding to international standards.
Позволяет фармацевтическим предприятиям именно в рамках требований GXP обеспечивать выпуск качественных, эффективных и безопасных средств.
The industry of medical startups forms a significant layer of the local pharmaceutical industry. For example, several years ago, a geneticist, Bauzhan Aytuov, invented a drug that can rightly be called a breakthrough in dentistry.
Все началось, когда я был в Америке и мечтал открыть.
Everything has started when I was in America and thought of the opening of my personal biotech company. One of my professors advised me to develop a drug for the treatment of initial caries. I've made a great search for literature and experimental data and conducted tests in our laboratory. When the working prototype has already been received, we registered it and introduced to the dental market.
Регистрировали и внедрили на стоматологический рынок.
In 2016, the startup company was awarded a grant from the Kazakh National Agency for Technological Development. It was able to purchase the necessary equipment. This allowed increasing the productivity by 100 times. Hence, the product was obtained on an industrial scale.
Цель была создание продукта не только...
Initially, the goal was to create a product not only for Kazakhstan but rather for American and Chinese markets. Therefore, in order to be competitive there, we must have a top product in all senses, starting from the design and package, which should speak for itself, for the brand, and up to product quality and service. We pay much attention to the service because we train dentists to use this new technology, to apply the product upon certain indications. We also work with patients, so we have two main directions, B2B and B2C.
То есть в двух направлениях, B2B с клиниками и B2C с пациентами.
The first and the main drug is designed to treat the initial caries without drilling. The affected tooth is being restored in just a month. A similar technology is used in the second medicine called Inodent Junior, which was designed to prevent tooth animal disease.
Идея пришла.
It turned out that sharks never have caries. According to the chemical, the physical structure, the teeth of a shark and a human are very similar. The thing is that the tooth animal of the shark is covered with a thick coat of fluorapatite, and that of a human with hydroxyapatite. Accordingly, we had an idea, why not to repeat the same process? Why not to strengthen the local animal of the tooth of a person so that caries do not arise from scratch?
Не возникал с нуля.
Caries preventive medicine for one tooth costs on average 500 tenge, while the treatment itself is 4 times more expensive. This year, the team of Baojan has already completed the development of the third medicine in their product line, which is now being tested in clinics of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The most important difference of this drug is that it can be used without the help of a dentist.
Мы собрали.
We have collected everything necessary for the patient in a single set, so that he or she could use it at home. Water is practically everything that is needed for the Inodent preparation itself. There is a solution that safely opens the micropores, so nothing needs to be measured. There are 3 bottles of hydroxyapatite, pipette, small brush and a Swiss rotary expander that allows a person keep the mouth opened as if he or she is at the dentist.
Валики и так далее. Самому в домашних условиях это сделать.
In general, over the past 5 years, the Kazakh pharmaceutical market has undergone modernization in a number of areas. Prices for locally produced medicines are getting lower, and the drugs themselves are becoming more accessible, all due to the state support of domestic producers. Also, the concept of contract manufacturing of medicines and medicinal products was introduced. In other words, foreign pharmaceutical companies now produce their products on a contract basis at local factories, which ensures compliance with the requirements of good manufacturing practices. At present, the range of domestic medicinal products does not fully satisfy the needs of Kazakh market. Therefore, the country has a lot of drugs of foreign production. So for the first 5 months of this year, the import of medicines to the country amounted to almost $470 million. However, the volume of exports is growing year by year. For the same period, Kazakhstan exported medicines at the amount of $12.5 million. Regarding the division by regions, the city of Shymkent remains the leader in terms of domestic production, occupying almost a half of the market with over 15 million tenge. It is followed by Almaty region and more than 30% of market share in the city of Almaty itself, almost 16% of the market and over 5.5 million tenge in monetary terms. The global pharmaceutical market is practically shared by the US, China and Japan. The main trends in the development of the industry are determined by the leader. In 2017, the volume of the American drug market increased by 4% and reached $456 billion. The active role in this process was played by online retailers. Today, the website of the well-known American company allows purchasing various goods of medicinal purpose, food additives, and non-prescription drugs online. Thus, experts promise that in the near future the internet service will be a significant competitor to pharmaceutical giants. The turnover of the Chinese drug market is $165 billion. The share of foreign supplies is only 25%. For a number of reasons, mentality and culture are the most important, of which the entry into the Middle Kingdom's market is complicated, and therefore foreign companies prefer to cooperate with local producers or form affiliated companies. But large producers feel themselves confident here, due to expanded state insurance and accelerated approval of new drugs. In general, according to forecasts by specialists, by 2020 the volume of the Chinese pharmaceutical market may increase to $200 billion. According to archaeologists, pharmaceuticals originate from the Sumerians. Since 4000 BC, they have used plants such as licorice, mustard, myrrh and opium for the treatment of various diseases. The preparation of potions was usually done by clergymen. The craft has found its response in ancient Egypt. For the treatment of various ailments, the locals used infusions, ointments and pills. After the collapse of the great Roman Empire, pharmaceuticals ceased to exist. The interest towards it awakened again only in the Middle Ages, when three main methods were used for the treatment of all diseases: consecration, starvation and bloodletting. The famous doctor and healer of the times, Avicenna, in his work The Canon of Medical Science, described such forms of medicines as pills and decoctions. The Swiss physician and chemist Paracelsus proposed the use of metals and their compounds as a treatment. A great contribution to the development of modern pharmaceuticals was made by the old Russian medicine studies. In 1654, the first school of physicians was opened there, where people were taught the preparation of medicines. And the first pharmacy, which gave rise to similar modern trade outlets, was opened there in 1701. And now, as always, in the end of the program, a useful tip: how to save on the choice of a medicine without harming the health. Expensive does not mean better. Remember, logistics is included to the cost of any imported drug. That's why do not overpay. Before giving preference to the medicinal product of foreign production, read the list of active substances. Perhaps there is a cheaper analog from local manufacturers. To increase the confidence, receive a consultation from the attending physician, since doses, duration of the action, duration of the course of treatment and contraindications may differ. Be sure to pay attention to the packaging. It should indicate the date of production or final consumption. If the data is blurred, it is possible that the falsification is in front of you. This drug should not be trusted. It can be life-threatening. By the way, it will also be costly to prove your rightness as a consumer. Appeal to the appropriate quality control bodies, and payment for laboratory research will fly into a pretty penny. Did you know that the cost of the most expensive medicine is $850,000? An American drug called Luxturna is able to heal from hereditary blindness. According to the authoritative statistical agency, only in the United States today about 2,000 people suffer from this disease, and annually about 24 new cases are being recorded. The developer of the new drug promises to cure the ailment for one 45-minute operation. A modified virus will deliver the right gene directly to the cells of the retina. Protein production will resume and vision will recover. Kazakh market is also full of developers and innovators in medicine, and the potential for the development of the pharmaceutical market of the country is great. Experts say, thanks to measures of state support, cooperation with foreign partners and introduction of high-tech equipment at local plants, the share of domestic enterprises in the production of pharmaceuticals will increase in the coming years. Then the Republic will be able not only to meet the domestic needs of the market, but also to increase exports of both synthetic and herbal medicines.